is up next.
This is what abject failure looks like, as reinterpreted by Donald Trump and his people.
We have it totally under control.
We have contained this.
I think we've done a great job.
We are doing better and more than any other president could have done.
This is a great success story.
We have prevailed.
President Trump, who has led in bringing America through the coronavirus pandemic.
The leadership of President Donald Trump.
We did a lot of things right.
More than 6 months after the first confirmed case of coronavirus in America, we are seeing record levels of cases and deaths from the virus. Trump has resumed his daily sideshow, trying to bolster his fake narrative that everything is totally under control, holding yet another of his new quote-unquote briefings with no health experts, of course, since they might disrupt the narrative with inconvenient facts. Yesterday, he again said the virus will just disappear. On Tuesday, the U.S. recorded more than 1,000 deaths, the most in a single day since late June. More than 143,000 Americans have now lost their lives, and the number of confirmed cases is poised to break 4 million. We all know Donald Trump has a penchant for nicknames, so House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has now branded him.
It is a pandemic that has gotten worse before it will get better because of his inaction, and in fact, clearly, it is the Trump virus.
And despite all of this death, Trump hasn't been able to muster much in the way of sympathy for those 143,000 lost souls or their families. Meanwhile, former President Barack Obama and Joe Biden appeared together in a Biden campaign video and pulled no punches about Trump's disaster.
Can you imagine standing up when you're a president saying, it's not my responsibility? I take no responsibility. It's not, I mean, literally. Literally.
Those words didn't come out of our mouths while we were in office.
I don't understand his inability to get a sense of what people are going through.
It all starts with being able to relate. If you can sit down with a family and see your own family in them and the struggles that you've gone through or your parents went through or your kids are going through, if you can connect those struggles to somebody else's struggles, then you're going to work hard for them.
I'm joined now by California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee, Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University, and Charlie Sykes, editor-at-large for the Bulwark. I want to start, Congresswoman, with you. You know, we are now 6 months and 1 day, or 183 days, since the announcement of the first coronavirus case. That was on January 20th. You yourself, Congresswoman, lost your sister to coronavirus. What do you make of Donald Trump's insistence, even up to today, and his administration's insistence that they have done an excellent job in fighting this virus?
Joy, thank you very much for having me on today. It is absolutely unbelievable that the president, in face of the facts that are confronting him and all of us, could stand before the American people and literally lie. I mean, he disregards all of the facts from all of our experts. He refuses to acknowledge, even when the epicenter was at New York and now the epicenter is at my state, California. He does not pay attention to the fact that we need to do more testing, that more people are dying in this country. He's just in denial and refuses to confront what is going on. And he believes that if he says something different, if he lies, that somehow we will think that he knows what he's talking about or that we'll believe him. It is absolutely outrageous that this president has failed miserably. Lack of leadership, a lack of honesty.
And
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. And California is facing a new spike. And, California is one of those states that did everything right. They did the right things, right? That, the governor there was conscientious about closing, was conscientious about saying, people should be wearing masks. He said all of the right things. And yet still you're seeing a spike in California's rate of COVID cases. In your mind, with this 183 days, if there had been a national strategy, if states hadn't been left on their own, to their own devices, in your mind, do you think that this, you know, we'd still, because it's a pandemic, we still would be where we are now with more than 140,000 deaths? Or do you think it could have made a difference?
Absolutely could have made a difference if we had had the leadership. And I think the experts have told us, you know, over and over again that we missed, you know, at least 3 months in getting on top of this. And in addition to that, the president was absolutely leading the country in the wrong direction. He was saying that there was no need to have a mask. He did not put on a mask. He disregarded social distancing. He appeared in public with others, you know, jammed close to him without a mask. He interfered with the shipment of PPE into our states, basically competing with our governors and commandeering this equipment that was coming from foreign countries. And so everything that he did set us back. And it set us back to the point where, yes, in California, now we've had this spike, we have this surge. As a matter of fact, we have spent the surplus that we had in our government, and now we have a deficit trying to deal with the situation. And as of today, I'm told that there's been a report of over 10,000 new cases, and it keeps going up.
Yeah.
And it's all because of a lack of leadership, no strategy, no plan.
You know, and you know, what Donald Trump has decided that he does want to lead on is sending armed forces. They're not troops. They're dressed up as if they are military, but they're not, into Democratic-run cities. It's part of this narrative that he's had really since Barack Obama was president, that Democratic-run cities are some sort of hellscape that he needs to do something about. I want to play a piece of video for you that will look familiar to you. This is you intervening in a traffic stop of a young black man who was pulled over by police, and this is what happened when you showed up. Take a look.
They stopped the brother, so I stopped to see what they were doing.
Right.
Oh, okay. So they say I'm in the wrong place, say they're going to give me a ticket. That's okay, as long as I watch them.
Gotta do what they gotta do, make sure.
All right.
Bye, Maxine, good luck.
You know, that shows not only the relationship that you have with your constituents, obviously, and real public service. You know, I think for a lot of black people, that traffic stop can be a terrifying ordeal. What do you make of the fact that on top of that fear, and, you know, kudos to you for intervening for that young man, but that now communities are facing what look like paramilitary troops, a sort of secret police converging on, you know, cities, Democratic-led cities?
The people of this country had better be worried about what we're seeing in Portland. We have these paramilitary police officers, or whomever they are. They're federal officers or agents of some kind that's been organized by the President of the United States. He did not contact the local mayors. He did not contact the governors. He just sent them in. Who are these people? Why do they have these kind of uniforms on where they cannot be identified? We don't know their names. We don't have anything that identifies them. They have unmarked cars. They've been pulling people off the street and throwing them into these cars. I want to tell you, Joy, this is what you see in countries where you have dictators, in third world countries with dictators who have paramilitary that they can call out against the people anytime they want. As a matter of fact, it has been suggested that this is a trial run for the President of the United States, who may be organizing to not accept what happens when we have the election. If he's not elected, is he going to pull out his military? Is he going to engage us? He is already alluded to there may be a civil war if he's not reelected. This is dangerous. We are trying to find out more about it. We have sent off information, you know, to the FBI, every place, asking all of these questions about who are these people, where do they come from, who's paying them, and why is it being done in secret?
Yeah, I think those are the questions a lot of people are asking around the country this evening. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time tonight. And,
well, thank you
let me
for
now
having me
bring in, of course, thank you very much, Congresswoman. Let me now bring in Jason Johnson and Charlie Sykes to pick up on that. You know, there have been questions, and I'll start with you, Charlie, about whether or not what Donald Trump is doing, it's obviously a campaign stunt. He wants the white suburbs to be terrified of Black Lives Matter and to think that it's some sort of revolution against the police, et cetera. But what he's doing now is he's supplementing what were already some violent reactions by some police officers to the protests with his own paramilitary force, who are dressed up to look like the military, as if he's trying to create an image that Black Lives Matter protesters are attacking the military or being attacked by the military or at war with the military. That is actually a pretty scary development, and it leads people to believe that he might be looking to use this again for the election.
Well, he is using it for the election right now. I mean, he's weaponizing it already. I mean, watch the way that he is already using it on television ads. He's going to put $10 million into campaign ads showing this kind of military force. And, of course, the irony is that what he appears to want is more scenes like we saw out of Lafayette Park in June, which I think was a real inflection point as Americans recoiled from the use of force against innocent civilians who were protesting. But this is clearly one of his narratives. And frankly, I don't think that Thomas Friedman is going too far when he says this is kind of a wag the dog scenario. But it's not wagging the dog by coming up with a war against an enemy, a foreign enemy. It is against the American public. So the playbook here is to turn Americans against one another and to do so in such a dramatic way. And I do think that people need to be concerned about it. And I am going to be very interested to see how Republicans react, how small government Republicans react to this federal intervention in what is really a state and local matter.
Yeah, they've been pretty quiet so far. I want to play for you, Jason Johnson, what Joe Biden said about Donald Trump and all of this behavior sort of wrapped into one. These were Joe Biden's thoughts about him, calling him the first racist president. Take a listen.
The way he deals with people based on the color of their skin, their national origin, where they're from, is absolutely sickening. No sitting president has ever done this. Never, never, never. We have racists, and they've existed. They've tried to get elected president. He's the first one that has.
I don't know if that's historically accurate, but I'll turn it over to the political scientist, Jason Johnson, that Trump is the first racist president. I get the point that Joe Biden was trying to make, though. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I tweeted earlier, if I disagree with him, does that mean I'm not black? I mean, look, we've clearly had racist presidents before, and you don't have to go back to Andrew Jackson. But I think the larger issue is this. What Joe Biden is trying to say is that no one has been this explicit about their bigotry and been politically successful. I don't know. I think you can make the same argument about Ronald Reagan. But I think the larger question going forward is this. Since we have seen the impact of a racist president, one who, remember, this is not speculation, this is not theoretical, an entire bipartisan House of Congress declared that he was a racist last year, the question for Joe Biden is, all right, well, what are you going to do about it? Right? You got to beat him, but it's not going to be good enough to just beat this president. You got to do something about how he has fundamentally changed our government. And that's the challenge that Joe Biden has in his messaging going forward.
Yeah, let's talk about Republicans for just a moment. Let me play for you Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader. And this is him responding to Mitch McConnell, who had a whole speech, had a whole spiel, and did not mention coronavirus relief negotiations in his floor speech. Here is Chuck Schumer's response.
It's in the middle of the week, and the Republican Party is so disorganized, chaotic, and unprepared that they can barely cobble together a partisan bill in their own conference.
And meanwhile, Charlie, you've got an NBC News report about infighting, Republicans in disarray over the coronavirus relief package in a closed-door meeting. You have Ted Cruz yelling on one side, you know, what the hell are we doing? You have Liz Cheney, you know, getting attacked, you know, even as far right as she is because she's supported Fauci. What is happening on the Republican side? How do they not create a plan? Seniors are leaving. Seniors are quitting. They're quitting on Trump and they're quitting on Republicans. They don't know how to get their act together. What's going on?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, we're being reminded that the Republicans are really not set up to be a governing party. They're great at being in opposition. But number two, you're already starting to see the fight for the future of the Republican Party, the post-Trump Republican Party. So you're seeing, you know, Ted Cruz versus Tom Cotton. You're seeing Matt Gaetz versus Liz Cheney. And I think it's interesting to me that they're not waiting for the election results to begin sniping at one another, to begin picking over the bones of the post-Trump Republican Party. But I think you're already seeing this, and it's certainly not the image of a confident party going into this election, is it? That they're training their guns on one another and failing to lead on a crucial issue, as opposed to going into the election unified. But again, this is going to be another huge test about whether they can get their act together, because, look, this country is faced with a massive crisis, multiple crises. There has been a failure of leadership. By the way, I'd go even stronger than that. President Trump's failure is probably one of the most dramatic failures of presidential leadership in modern political history. But it's also not just incompetent. It was because of a specific choice, the pivot he made in April to ignore the scientists, to ignore the experts, to make this part of the culture war, to say we're going to liberate the country. This is on him. And Republicans in Congress, they have to decide whether they're going to lead themselves.
Yeah, it's not incompetence, it's malevolence, I think is a better word for it. Jason Johnson, Charlie Sykes, thank you guys very much. And next on the ReidOut, former Homeland Security Secretary